Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Robinhood Capitalist. I'm your host, DJ Flores. With me, as always, my co-host and coach, Coach Stacey B. Thank you for joining us this morning. Uh, Want to set the intention as we do every show before we get the music started and really get started with the show. I also want to kick a question off to you, Stacey, to share how we even got this started and how we came about to pair up together in the beginning. Uh, Intention for the show, we really want to go over and recap. David, it was an amazing show. If you didn't get to catch it, check the replay on our YouTube channel, Robinhood Capitalist. But some of the things we really want to go over and recap from that show that I felt was very strong, we felt was very strong, was his embracing of his differences, the power of B.Y.O.E, building your own economy, and finally, really just being true to you. But Stacey, if you could, before we get started, share a little bit of how this even all came apart and came together, how we got paired up, and then get us started.
It's so weird. It's a lot of the people I've met over the last couple of decades have been through the same person, and that's John Hewitt. And obviously, you know him as the founder of Loyalty Brands back 20 some years ago when I joined a company called Liberty Tax. He founded that one too. And so I left a couple of years and started my own. So in 2021, I left and started my own company here with Focal Point. And so after 20 plus years with Liberty, I went out on my own to follow my passion, follow my dream, and do more of what I love to do, which is just add value and help as many people as I could possibly help. But I was just sitting there one day, and I had a trip coming up the very next day, and I got a message from John that just said, "Hey, would you be willing to?" Would you like to chat? I've got some ideas for you. I can meet today or tomorrow. And it was already like noon. I'm like, well, I'm an hour away, but I could probably be there by 2 today. But that's about my only option. And he says, sure, that works. And so I went and met with him. And he said, I was thinking about you, and I wanted to see if I can help you out. And I've got some ideas for you. He goes, I came across this really interesting guy that started a podcast. I was a guest on the podcast. I think you'd be really good as a team to work on a podcast together. And I left that meeting, and before I got out of the parking lot, you were calling me. And so I stopped. I think it was at a Home Depot parking lot, and just sat at a Home Depot parking lot, and we talked it through about what something like this would look like. And now here we are. So it came together really fast and just sort of out of the blue, which I'm incredibly thankful that it did, because this has been a lot of fun.
It has been so much fun. Thank you, and thank you for sharing that. And y'all, if you're ready, we're going to get started. So, Coach Stacey B, get ready.
You get one heartbeat song. Take it seriously. This is your masterpiece. Don't forget to dream and taste the colors in the air you breathe. It's your masterpiece. Go ahead and feel it all. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful.
Don't stop till it's beautiful. Remember that. One heartbeat. Uh, Start the show, obviously, with some. We already got some chat out there. So, Ryan, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The Logistics Monk's in the house. Got also Logistics Monk. Yeah, that's what I love about podcasts. The universe finds a way to make it happen and connect the right people at the right time. I agree. Uh, uh, believe that good people find good people, and they always will. Be patient. You'll find your tribe. But anybody joining us today live, thank you. We're so honored to just have people join us live and do the show. Again, like Stacey said, it was kind of amazing. That's kind of how this life has been once, and to go off of what Ryan said, the universe really does. Once you find your right tune, you find your right frequency, you find your right whatever you want to call it. But it seems like you find your flow state. I think Ed Milet likes to talk about that a lot, and everything just seems to start happening. And that's kind of what it's been like since John Hewitt reached out to me on LinkedIn. So again, like Stacey said, thank you, John, for making this even come about.
So
First,
my logo is not as big as yours, but when we do come together through this universe that has brought things together, we can together have a deep impact and change the world. So that's what we're here to do.
yes, yes, exactly. That is exactly what we're here to do, and we want to help change your world. Um, Stacey, it was amazing. So thank you for having David as our first guest. So it was a referral. So if you guys enjoyed David as the guest, shout out David. It was amazing. So thank you for sharing your time and being live with us. But some of like his experience, his stories, and especially his childhood was crazy to here, but it's the same story. And I know we had talked after the show, and you mentioned he had a very similar or connection to Les Brown, and I know I'd mentioned Les Brown, and it was funny because or not funny, but really just crazy how he a lot of his story just instantly popped in my head. Les Brown. I mean, and there's a lot of people who push through these labels, push through these ideas that there's something less than, and realizing that they actually have greatness inside of them. They have something more. And so really embracing his difference was so powerful. What I'm guessing you knew that story, Stacey. Like what him sharing
Yeah.
it. What was your
Yeah,
thoughts going through?
he goes even deeper a bit in the first part of his book too, and so I had known him for better part of a decade or more through Liberty, and when he wrote the book, he asked if I would fly out and just speak at his book launch. He had a book launch event, and so I got an advance copy, which is what I've got on the Kindle right here. It's kind of like a PDF copy that I was started to work from for that event, and that was the first time reading his book. Was the first time I'd heard the whole story, and so and we knew each other pretty well. We had talked, we had sat down and had some heart to hearts, and when he says that was not something of his life that he used to tell, he didn't, because that wasn't something that had ever been shared. So when I got to when I got into South Padre Island where we had the event, I was kind of like, dude, you never you never told me all of this. This is amazing. What you were able to utilize, and the eye opening that my difference that seems so bad is really what can make me great. He took what was perceived as a weakness and made it a strength, and that's a really powerful message.
I agree. Do you feel like I feel like that's a common thread though? Like what people see is their weakness or continue to. I mean, me being loud and having a lot of enthusiasm and energy, watching myself back, I I sometimes feel like that's a weakness. But then I know that for a lot of things, I used to kind of quiet that back or keep that in because I thought it was just too much or too overpowering or too whatever. Um, but I realized, like, yeah, the uniqueness that we have, I feel like, is almost our superpower. It's almost the thing that we have to bring out, and it's just finding the right people to surround us with.
Yeah, those problems and challenges and things we deal with, that's where we build our strength, and we should be thankful for the challenges, because if we handle the challenges right, we're going to come out stronger than we ever would have been without the challenge, which means we're going to go farther than we ever would have gone without the challenge. And so it's really important. And Ryan just put a chat out there about Giannis's interview last night. I actually sent
Oh,
that. I texted that video to David this morning because I thought the same thing that Ryan said there. That was
so
a really good point.
And so I'll read. So Ryan says, great point, DJ. Giannis had a great interview last night after they lost, just like this. It's a wrong question. There's no failure in sports. There's good days, bad days. Some days you're able to be successful. Some days you're not. And then it cuts off there, but I'll finish reading over here on the side. Some days you're able to be successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Sometimes other people win. And this year, somebody else is going to win. Simple as that. Uh, that is.
Yeah, that was good. So when I saw that this morning, and some of my folks that I work with, I'll send a text in the morning just to kind of help focus the day. And I had already sent the text, and then I saw that video, and I'm like, "Ooh, I got to send that now." So I started sending that one out too. But it is a process, and it's um, I believe it was Jim Rohn that used the E plus R equals O. You know, you can't always control the event, the E, but what we can control is our response to that event, and that's what's going to change the outcome. And that mindset that this is a process, and I'm going to come out stronger and better on the other side. From Giannis, that's a great that's a great way to live life. It's a way you can be better every day.
Yes, yes. I love that. So Ryan, thank you for sharing that. And I feel like so my background in sales, it seems like every place I worked at, they loved or majority of they loved people having some background in sports. If they knew that I played some sport, they always like that always excited them, and I never really understood why until it was just the basics of what sports is, and it's obviously what he exemplifies in this statement. But it's you against you. It's practicing to get better, to be yourself, and the more disciplined you are with your work ethic, with that's the level that you can go to. But in the end, again, yeah, somebody wins, somebody loses, and it's okay to lose.
There are a
It's
lot of
you.
great lessons in sports. There's so many
Uh,
great lessons in sports and leadership lessons and just learning to take your lumps and to grow from the lumps. So yeah, there's a ton of good lessons in sports. And somebody that's got the attitude of a winner after their journey through sports, that attitude of a winner doesn't go away. And one thing winners like to do is win. So you get them on your team. As long as you have a winning team and a winning plan, that they're going to be your catalyst for a lot of good stuff.
yes, 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 they
But
are.
this whole idea, I was looking up. You know, I'm also the founding partner with the John Maxwell team. It's now Maxwell Leadership, but so I'm a big fan of Maxwell and his material. But I remember that
I
in one of the books, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, he went through some statistics, and it was a 400 or 500 successful people that they analyzed, very successful people. Three-quarters of them came from poverty. It was like 72 out of 85 fiction writers that were very successful had come from some deep psychological trauma from their families. And then there was another quarter of over a quarter of successful people that had come from some either physical impairment or mental. There was something that was like a handicap that they had to overcome to get to where they are. So this idea of embracing these things and letting them work for us is, again, it's really powerful. And most successful people you encounter, not most, every successful person you encounter, there's no overnight success. They followed this process, that they're just making better choices than I am if they're further along than I am. And I've got to learn to make those better choices.
I love it. I love you went there because so a book I talk about quite a bit because I'm so sad that this guy left us so soon. But Trevor Moawad wrote a book called "It Takes What It Takes," and he shares. So he did a lot with sports. He was worked with Nick Saban, worked with a lot of the best athletes out there. He's partnered with Russell Wilson to start a company called Limitless Minds. But uh, he talks about in the book Vince Carter and shares Vince Carter. I mean, Vince Carter played in the NBA for a super long time, and he said, well, how are you doing this? And exactly what you just shared. It was all about there's certain things that you just have to do. Like you don't, if you want to be the best, whatever this road is, you have to do certain things. Like there is no excuse. And so he would just very intentional with everything he did, from how many shots he took after. He wouldn't go out when everybody else went out. His exercising, his just amazing. And that really is the secret that I think most of us get stuck to is we feel like it's just somebody gets lucky and boom, they're just a success. They have no idea what this person like David. We talked about it in the show, and he shares a day in the life of. And he's most successful people are waking up really early. That's just what I've learned from. They have some great morning routine, whether it's they're following something like the Miracle Morning or they're following the 5 a.m. club, but they have some sort of routine that they're waking up early, and it's discipline. And I think it really, in the end, is why I share that hashtag of you versus you. And David kind of talked about that on Tuesday as well. Is it really it is it's us versus us. It's can we control this to do what we want to do instead of it telling us what we're supposed to do, and being stuck in that routine, that recording, that rat race, that wheel. Um, uh, what thoughts on that? And then
Well,
I actually want
it,
to go to building your own economy then too.
yeah, it's why having a tribe like this that we're building is so important. The world, we talked about this on episode 1. The world is just constantly beating us down. We're beating ourselves up on the inside. We're getting beaten up from the outside, and having just having someone that you can bounce something off of. Someone that'll call you out on your BS when you need to be called out on your BS. Someone that just is there to just be a guide is really important. And there's so many negative voices. Having a couple of positive ones, it's not hard to find them because they sound so different than what you're hearing everywhere else. And sometimes they sound so different, you'll be like, that's not for me, because it's just not like something I've heard before. In reality, that's probably an indication that's a voice maybe you should at least give it a shot.
I, Thank you for sharing that because I want to go deeper on that. So I agree. There is that voice that you have to listen to, and it feels like the more self-aware you get, the more you study something like praying, meditation. I think the power in all of that, it sounds very woo-woo, and that's what kind of freaks people out. But really, at least what I shared with Maggie yesterday, and I'm so glad we went here, but is is that power really is you telling your body, telling the recording, telling your natural response that if you all seen the movie Click, I love movies. Adam Sandler, remote on life, and you could skip through, and he at certain points, then he's not observant and skips through life. That's us. We start playing that recording, we don't even know what's going on around us. And so that prayer, that meditation, that whatever it is just telling yourself, stop. I'm in control of you now. I'm in control of this body. Stop. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. And it's gaining back that control of that voice, of that inner voice that is telling you, oh, and you'll be surprised. When I first started meditation, it was literally I'd try to sit there and be quiet, and then instantly I'm thinking of everything I have to do, and that's
Oh
okay,
yeah.
and you're supposed to. But it's really the power is telling yourself, don't get up. You just focus back on your breathing, focus back on whatever you're focusing on. But the
So
power in
I'll
that,
give you a book on that, DJ. Look up the
yeah,
book Positive Intelligence by Shirzad. I think it's Sharmin.
okay.
Um, but basically, what you're describing is the battle that's going on. We really good at a lot of stuff, and if we can engage the sage part of our brain, then we start to be in that flow state that you started us off with. The problem is we have another part of our brain that he calls the saboteurs, and he's identified 10 different saboteurs that come in, and so we self-judge. We have the avoider that keeps us in a state of procrastination. We have the pleaser that keeps us trying to please everybody and everything around us, and there's 10 of these that come in. And so what he'll give you in the book, and he's got a program for this too, which I went through last year. It's kind of cool, but there's these little techniques that 10-15 seconds up to maybe a couple of minutes at the time, you just follow these, and it's a lot easier than meditation, because I had that same problem. My brain goes everywhere. And so what you do is when you're sitting there for that couple of seconds, if something enters your consciousness, just say, it's really interesting that my 4th grade English assignment came up right now. I don't know why that happened, but I acknowledge it, and now I'm going to move on. So you just acknowledge it and kind of move on. But that's the kind of stuff that goes on. I'm sitting here trying to do my best to be mindfulness and all this good stuff, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about something that went wrong in elementary school. It's just something stupid out of the blue, and so you're right. That's just a pause, and you think it uses your senses. So some of it is tactile, some of it is using vision or hearing, or just it engages the 5 senses to then turn around and engage the sage part of the brain. So it's pretty powerful stuff.
Ah, Share that book. Share that book again. Everybody, check this out. We'll share this as well. But what was the book again?
Positive Intelligence.
Positive Intelligence. Check that. That sounds like a powerful book. I will definitely be listening to that on Audible. Thank you for that recommendation, Stacey. Now I want to go transition to our second idea, which was I love that he went. So I haven't. Again, I shared on the show. I'm waiting for David. Got to get that on Audible. I'm ready for it. But I his power and his even the way he kind of presented the idea of building your own economy and the different levels of economy and not paying attention to all those other economies, but only your own. Um, there was so much, even not just economy. I think that's everything, but I think that's where we get stuck as humans. Social media has become oh, look, this person's doing this and this person's doing that and this, and we're like, whoa, I'm not doing any of that. But that's when we get stuck. Then we get back into the program. We get back to where we're comparing. And comparison, I think, shout out to, I think it was Jose who shared it from one of the first shows, but comparison is the thief of joy. As soon as you compare, whether you're inferior or you're superior, so if you're less than or better than, doesn't matter. You just stole all joy of what was going on. But I think so the deeper meaning to building your own economy. Can you go a little bit deeper into that since you have kind of worked with him and read the book? But I just think even just the surface of where he explained it, that don't worry about all these different levels of economies. There's all different levels of everything around us, and we could get so stuck and again, it ends up being paralysis by analysis, but it's just worrying about everything else and well, this person's doing that, maybe I should try that. Oh, this person did that, maybe no. Stay in your lane, stay focused, believe in what you're doing, and just stick to what your calling is.
Yeah, that's a big part. And in essence, what he's saying is control what you can control. There's only a few things in life that we can control, and our response to the events that are happening all around us, that's what we can control. And so in the book, you'll notice he uses kind of a bullseye. It looks like the Simon Sinek bullseye. I'm assuming that was
That's my mom.
for your mom, not for me.
Shout out to my mom. I'll give you one too.
But he shows the bullseye and the different economies. That there's a world economy, a national economy, a regional, a state, a local. But what's really important is my own economy. So what he looked at is what can I control to make my life better in a few key areas. When I'm working with someone, I use a very similar thing. I use a diamond, and at the base of the diamond is spiritual and physical health, relationships and family. You've got your wealth, and then you've got your job, your career, your business, and those are kind of the four areas. What he identified first in the book, and he went with four, is he called them rules. And basically your rules are your principles, your values. What are your non-negotiables? What are you going to live by? One of the first things I learned working with John Hewitt at Liberty was how important principles and values are. And so David really honed in on that. And I'm not sure if it was part of being with Liberty that led him to this epiphany or not. But having that basis is really important. And what it'll do for you is if you have and you called it self-awareness. I love that word because awareness is incredibly important. Like right now, this whole room is filled just like, with radio. There's music all over this room, but I can't hear it because I'm not tuned in. It's filled with ideas and wonderful stuff too. And if you can get your awareness where it needs to be. And so what his awareness told him is I've got to get clear and get really good clarity on who I really am. And not only that, but who am I becoming? And then you start making decisions based on that. And if you know what those principles are, what those non-negotiables are, it makes your decision making a lot easier when something comes up and other people might be struggling. Do I do this or this? You have a foundation from which to say, well, I know I can't do that, but this is what I'm going to do. So it helps with decision making. It helps with hiring because you're bringing people in, your culture you want to build, the principles you want to build. And so yeah. And with Liberty, our principles were key to everything. We had the principles listed on a sheet called a mission moment reminder. And if you called somebody that was living the principles, you gave them that. And we those things were postered everywhere. I mean, they were meaningful because we wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than us. And that's what David identifies as the first thing, is to know who you are and who you're going to and who you're becoming. And he's a faith-based person, so it's not it doesn't get real deep into that. But he also knows it's important to know who you are and whose you are, and live from those values too.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. That was so good. Where do we go from there? There's so much I want to unwrap from that. You gave so much. I think tying into that and tying into just the building your own economy and not worrying about everything else, the thing that David we talked about on Tuesday that was really kind of the greatest mind shift for me, at least, was, and it's back to what you even mentioned about you versus you, controlling the controllables. The only thing we can truly control is our effort and our attitude. I truly believe that's all we can control. We can't control anybody else. We can't control what people think. We can't make them do things we don't want them to do. Like we can't do any of that except our effort and our attitude. And I think that's one why John loves to hire people on attitude and effort, or your skills mean nothing. I think more in employers should follow that method because your attitude is something that you can't train, you can't fix, you can't like your attitude is that person. You can't change somebody else's attitude, just like it's hard for them to change their own sometimes. But once you know that you're in control of that, it gives you a lot more power. And it was really just giving up all, like, no matter what happened. And so that kind of David shared that, and that was what I guess was my mindset shift. Was there's no excuses once, and I'll throw up a thing because I have a few John Hewitt quotes here, but one of his greatest quotes that I love is only losers need excuses. And it sounds very harsh, but it really is. A winner doesn't have an excuse for why that happened. They just learn from it and figure out what's next and what they didn't do right the first time. Failure and making mistakes is part of life. It's the only way we can learn. And John loves people making mistakes. I know that because I've heard him say that quite a bit. And he and I believe it's because again we have to learn that in the end the only one responsible for our life where we're at, whether it's spiritual, like you talked about, emotional, your relationships, your whatever it is, it's on us. There's nobody else we can blame. There's nobody else in control of it. There's nobody else who can. Our choices lead to where we're at.
Yeah, that was one of the quotes from David's book that I brought up. He said that he called himself out. He says, "I'm the cause and the solution of every problem that I have." And it's one of the principles of, I forgot how many principles of success there were in Canfield's book, the success principles, but the very first one was just, you got to own it. You've got to take responsibility for everything. Whatever results you've got in your life right now, good, bad, or indifferent, it's all you. It's your choices that made those happen. You manifested whatever you've got in front of you right now. So if you want something better, we got to start thinking a little different. So our thoughts and our internal, that you versus you battle, is the foundation of everything that we do.
Yes. Now, in your opinion, what do you believe? So, big Les Brown fan, so I have a thing I want to share from him. But your opinion, what helps you, or what when you finally realize, you find that self-awareness, you find that okay, this is me, like it's all me. So what is that first then reaction or change that you need to do from that point?
Good question. It's and it's probably different for everyone. Probably the best answer I can give you is change something. You don't have to have a 55-point detailed plan of how I'm going to change my life. Just do something that makes you a little bit better today than you were yesterday. But once you start getting that awareness and you start getting clarity, and so clarity is identifying who you really are and again, who you're becoming. So where do I want to be 5 years from now? And so one exercise that I do with people is I'll have them write, like if I was working with you, DJ, and say, write the ideal story of DJ. So you're the author of your own story. So 5 years from now, what are you doing? Who are you doing it with? Where are you living? Tell me about your house. Tell me about your family. Tell me about all these other things. And you write that story. And once you know that, once you have that awareness of who you are and who you're becoming, well, then we can actually start to put together a plan to get there. Okay, well, what skills and knowledge do I need to acquire to make this happen? What people and who do I need to meet that can help me along the way? Is there a plan that I can follow that's already, like that's the whole purpose of franchising. We love franchising because it takes something complex and simplifies it. It gives you a plan to follow. You don't have to invent a bunch of stuff, and you get to learn from the mistakes of others, which is a wonderful way to learn instead of having to make them all yourself. You'll still make plenty, don't get me wrong, but you don't have to make them all. And so once you know what you need to know, who you need to know, and find your just a few steps to get there, then just take step one. And Martin Luther King said it. You take that first step. You don't always know what the second step is going to look like. You can't always see the second step, but once you take the first one, the second step will appear, and then you take the second one, and you just keep progressing until you get to that ideal story of DJ.
Mm. Okay, so I have some people that I've done that with, and I've tried that. Painting, what do you want in 5 years? And they have no answer. Where do you start with somebody like that? Like they don't even know. Like somebody has no clue where they want to be in 5 years. They know, obviously they're searching help. They're seeking guidance or a coach or something like that because they don't know. But where do you start with somebody like that who just doesn't even know in 5 years what they want? They just know they're not happy now.
So what I hope is that there are more people that feel that way than not, because there's a lot of days that I wonder, is this the right path? What do I really want to be? And so I think we all question that, and it is a difficult question. One of the first questions John ever asked me at Liberty, and I'm 30-ish years old with the family and wife and kids, the whole nine. And one of the first questions he asked is, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And that's not always an easy answer. And so if I was going to try to help you through this, I would do my best to ask a whole lot of questions and just kind of get down to help, because somewhere deep inside, what it is you really want to do. You know where you want to be, and you're just afraid to say it. And so my job working with someone is to bring that out, to elicit that response, to help them find the answer that's already there. It's just hidden by the stuff of the world that we have to dig through.
Stuff of the world. I'm glad you went there. So some things that I really learned and took and stuck with me from Les Brown, and just listening and following Les Brown, was he loves to talk about practicing OQP, which is only quality people. And he talks about having only quality people around you. Only you're the sum of, I think he says it, and a lot of other people, the sum of the 5 closest people around you. Uh, that is your people. A quote that he says, and it triggered instantly. Boom! As soon as David said what he said about labels, it went right to Les Brown. He has this quote, so I'm going to read it. But surround yourself with coaches and mentors who can take you to a place within yourself. Skills that you can't go and buy yourself. You can't buy these skills because you can't read the label when you're trapped inside of the box. What is that? What does that tell you? I mean, when he said that and when he said, he was labeled with these things, these ideas that he was this, and he was like, no, I'm not. He just needed the right people to pull that out of him. And that's, if you feel like you're trapped inside of a box, you feel like there's something more. I felt like that for a long time. Why am I going crazy, not settling with this life that everybody else is okay with? So I felt like I was going crazy.
Even if it's not something as significant or severe as Les Brown or David Perez went through, because they tell some pretty heart-wrenching stories in their respective books. And even if it's not something like that, we all fall for it. I mean, think of how many people have gone to school because of what their parents wanted them to do, not because of what was really truly inside of them. They follow the path of least resistance. We all do that a lot of times and end up and we're nowhere near where we really should be. And so this idea of self-awareness it's really about just how can we reach what really is our God-given potential? Because I'm a firm believer that our Creator put us here to be something to be somebody, to be something special. It's up to us to take the tools that we've been given and to really build those tools and become that. That's my mission in life, is just to live up to the potential that God has given.
I'm so glad you said that because I believe even deeper than that. I think we all have a gift. He gave us all a gift, but our gift has to be giving to other people. It's in some way our gift is giving to others. It's not really returning the gifts to ourselves of things and statuses, but it's in we have a gift. There's something each one of us have that can definitely help everybody else, and we're supposed to. I think we're all intertwined to eventually find, well, you're really good at this, and John does a great job of that. John knows his strengths and he hires his weaknesses, and I've heard that by a lot of successful people too. Know your strengths, don't focus on your weaknesses, hire your weaknesses, and that's where I think, kind of going into being true to you. I want to really dive into that last. I love that he um, was so strong on that. I love his stance on that. We won't go into deep things with it, but just I think at a time that we're at, there's a saying that's been repeated over and over and over, and especially in times like this. But I believe we are, the matrix is real. I think there's all patterns. I think there's cycles. We're all human. I mean, from the start of humanity, humans are the highest form, closest to God that exist on this planet. But we we get lost in, like you said, the world around us. Everybody who's beating us up and telling us you can't do that because they can't do that, or you can't do this because they didn't want to try to do that, or this is impossible. And so then there's that outside force, that world beating you up, keeping you, telling you can't do it. You can't do it. It's impossible. When he said about just this time is when we need to stand up strong for our opinions, I believe that's who wins in the end. I think collaboration is the future of business. I think people understanding that it's not a race to the bottom. Corporate America took us there. We have the lowest pricing of everything. Amazon, you can't compete with that, but we also have the lowest quality of service everywhere too. So I think it's really now strong people who's standing up for their beliefs, who are strong in their beliefs and their opinions on what. And again, it's not being. And I'll kick it over to you here and to really dive deep into this. But the quote that I shared, that quote, I mean Terry Cruz's face. I wish you all could see this video. I'll have to download it because I talked about it enough now. But Mike Tyson, he says on this podcast, when you're a friend to everybody, you're an enemy to yourself. And Terry Crews, he was going to say something, and then he was just like, "Wow!" And it was funny because when he did that, I was kind of like, "Whoa," because I feel like that's where we do get trapped. We want to feel like part of these friends in this world, so we're going to go okay with these opinions, but we don't really believe it. We want to mix in with these people because we really like them, but we don't believe everything that we're saying. Like, we know deep inside there's something that wants to say, no, that's not right, but we're still doing it. We're still going through it. And he was very strong, and I think that's where we're at in this time, in this season of humanity. We're in the time where it's going to be better to agree to disagree than to never say anything at all. What's your thoughts on that?
He spelled it out in no uncommon or uncertain terms there. It was, be confident in your opinions and be willing to state your opinions. And if, obviously we're not going to always be right, and don't be afraid to say, you know what, I was wrong there, right? We're going to be humble enough to know when maybe we messed up. But I'm right there with you. We have got to start standing up for our beliefs and for what's right and being vocal about it. And on the DISC assessment scale, which is I use a lot. I do a lot of assessments with people to help them get to know and understand themselves. What I've learned about myself through a lot of those processes is that I do avoid the conflict, and a lot of times that doesn't make me, up until I learned this lesson, I don't know that I was the best coach or mentor or friend friend that I could be. Because when you tell somebody what they need to hear, that's being a really good friend. That's being good to them. When you tell them what they want to hear, that's just being good to yourself. You're taking the easy road out, and that doesn't help anybody. And that's what this world has become. I'm just going to say something that's comfortable so I don't hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not going to say, hey, DJ, I don't feel like you're yourself today. What can I do to help bring you along? What's going on, man? Let me help you out. Instead of confronting a visible problem that we see in people that we absolutely care about, love, we don't even do it with them. So it's really something special to see someone stand out, and the confidence of your beliefs is important, and confidence is important. People are drawn to confidence. So as a leader, it's important to have confidence, but that's only going to get you in the door. It's the character that'll keep you in the room. So you've got to back that confidence with the right character, the right motivations, and so if you back that confidence with our feeling that we can have anything in the world that we want if we just help enough other people get what they want. You back those two things together, it's a pretty powerful state of awareness to find yourself in.
State of awareness is a great term for that, because I do feel like once we start to learn. So very similar to DISC. So we had talked about this a few times, but giant shout out Becky Wolf if you ended up catching this, but. Giant, very similar to the DISC, they have something called 5 voices, and their whole training, they call it SERPA training, and it's basically self-awareness to then leadership, and I think you need those 2 steps. First, you have to know who you are, truly who you are, who your true beliefs are. I think we do have a lot of people that are out there now that don't even know where they stand. You see it in shows, you see it. Oh, I don't even know what my again, quoting another movie, but Mr. Deeds, Adam Sandler, I don't even know what my natural hair color is. I think there's a lot of people who would say that because they end up, again, like you said, we start just saying things to either please those people or please ourselves by not offending them. But if you're a true friend to somebody, I'm glad you went there, because I think friends are going to tell you, like, friends are there to challenge you. One big thing John said, and I think we talked about this with David as well, and I'm sure you guys heard it being with Liberty, but if all of us have the same opinion in the room, one of us doesn't need to be there. And I think that is very strong, and it's a very strong foundation of what John has, and probably what a lot of his success has been with Liberty, and even what we have with loyalty. There's not a bunch of yes people, just yes, and he went deeper with that, and I'll go deeper with this since we have some time. But at a conversation, he brought up doubt and about having doubt, and he asked me, I think I might have even had this shirt on at the time, and he said, "Do you believe you believe 100% in God?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, but you have to have some doubt." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then he shared some stories of doubt, but then even Jesus, he said the last story he shared was Jesus on the cross. We just went through this with Easter, so everybody knows, but the story, but on the cross, the last of his words were, "Father, Father, why have you forsaken me?" Meaning, like, really? Is this going on? Like, even he himself had doubts of what he was supposed to do. But I think we have to have those doubts, otherwise we stand still. We don't move. We don't question, is everything right? Is this where I'm supposed to be right now? If we don't have any doubts, we think we just know everything, we're right. We're never going to grow. We're never going to learn. We're never going to bring out the gifts that God gave us to really bring out. So we have to have that doubt.
Yeah, the one thing I've really seen from David through the years in his journey and to where he is now, he's a big believer, and not just in words but in deeds, on investing in himself. And so he's literally spent the time with Les Brown and Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Coach Michael Bird and a lot of other folks, and he's invested lots and lots of, it's probably tens of thousands of dollars at this point that he's invested in himself and his team. So he doesn't just make it about himself. Used to, at the Liberty trainings I would conduct, whether it was a public speaking training or just standard business owner training, he would be front row with 4, 5, or 6 of his key people that he wanted to bring along with him. So this idea of this whole thing being a journey and waging this battle of you versus you, again, you look for those skills and things that we need to up level. and you just go to work on those things. And what made me think about this is you went to the doubts. We all have doubts, and I think that it's good. We shouldn't assume that we're completely right about everything, and we should be willing to allow people to challenge our assumptions and to make us think, and that's a good thing. But one way that you can help overcome those doubts again is you continue to work on yourself so that you build that confidence, and as you start to get better on the inside, and your decision making gets a little bit better, and your people building gets a little bit better, and then your results and your money gets a little bit better, over time, all of a sudden now you're much more willing to say, this is what I believe, because now you've got the insight and the experience to back it up, that you can really tell yourself, I know what I'm talking about. Let me go and just tell you a few things there.
I love that. I love that you went to there. I know what I'm talking about now. And that aha. I think at that same point that you finally realize, like, I keep doubting myself. Then you start to have that imposter syndrome. Like, do I really know? Do I actually know all of this? Are you sure I know all of this? And then you start to even question yourself when you really do know. But there has to always be that doubt. Uh, Uh, if you guys like the show, if you guys loved some of the breakdown of everything, again, make sure to subscribe to us, the Robinhood Capitalist. We love sharing this. We really just want to help you find those OQ, practice OQP, only quality people. Surround yourself, find your tribe. If you can't find a tribe and you're kind of feeling trapped like I was 2 years ago, then you got to reach out some other way. And so if it can't be physically around you, go to shows like this. Find other shows that will help you kind of be that support to defeat you. Because in the end, it's you versus you. You got to get yourself out of the way to be open and willing to learn what you don't know. You could read that label outside of the box.
Yeah, for millennia now, the words that we should live by is know thyself, right? And that's what this is. It's a journey of getting to know ourselves. And so as DJ and I talk through and we build this tribe together, we're going to throw a lot of books at you, because we both love to listen to and read books. And I'm not sure. I think DJ must like sleep at night with movies playing in the background, because he knows every movie. So I don't know how there's time to watch that many movies, but we're going to throw a lot of these things at you, and just a couple of tools, because time is our most valuable asset, and it's one that once it's gone, you can't recover. And so every minute is so freaking important. It's unbelievable how important our time really is. And so as we throw all these books at you, one trick that I use is I will use Audible on a faster speed. I'll give it a listen real quick and determine, is this something I really want to invest my time in or not? I'll use the recaps of books before I start on it, just to make sure that it's probably going to work. But once I find the right one, I'll pick a few that I narrow in on. And when you get a really good one, maybe it's a Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, or Richest Man in Babylon, or As a Man Thinketh. If it's some of the classics, or Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, there's so many. Once you find a couple like that, it's not a one-time read. You go back. Heraclitus, ancient philosopher, he said you never step in the same river twice. And the lesson was that everything is in a constant state of change, where you're probably sitting there thinking, well, that book doesn't change. Why do I need to reread it? It's because your awareness is completely different. Every time you go in there, there's going to be something that stands out that's going to teach you a lesson, if it's a really, really good book that's something you can live by. So one that I go to a lot is meditations. Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Every time I get in there, there's something in my awareness that says, wow, that's what I needed to hear today. Obviously the Bible is a big one. There's something that just gets
Uh-oh, I think we lost his. Where'd it go? Stacey, you still there? Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me and I'm alive, let me know in the chat. I think we maybe. Are you there? Oh, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
you froze. You froze.
One of these days, I'm going to be somewhere other than.
Okay, he's gone. Sorry, y'all. So as he is in a hotel. So what he was gonna say, one of these days he will be in his office and not a hotel. But he is a busy man. He is a sought after coach. So you guys are getting obviously some value from this, and hopefully you are, because really to go to the coaching. I mean, Tony Robbins says it, and coaches and mentors will help you skip decades. And it's because of their experience. Because of their lessons. The best coaches out there. Gary Vee has coaches. I mean, Gary Vee is a beast in this world, but he has coaches, multiple coaches. Um, Coaches need coaches. We're always we to get the greatness out of us. We need those supporting people around us to keep building us up, to build to that next skill, that next level. What a coach does is it brings out. Think of life as a video game. When I started to look at life as a video game, just a video game, where this avatar, this meat bag, or as Wayne Dyer likes to call it, ego or Earth Guide only. Earth Guide only. Lose the ego. But this body that has so many skills. It's an avatar in a game, but I don't know what those are until I start to meet people in this video game. And as I find the right characters, they teach me a new skill. And then after certain levels and a certain hard test, here I get to this next level. And there's levels in this game, and it's fun when you can play that mindset shift on yourself and change your mind. And you brought up a book that I'm so glad you brought up in that list of books. Few that I want to shout out, but then one I want to touch on and really finish the show with is you brought up Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. That book changed my life, so people need to read that book. And then you talked about Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Give a little background real quick, 2-minute background on that book, and then I want to go into a story and then lead us to who's next week, our next guest, and that stuff. So if y'all like this, please in the chat, share, say hello, thank you, and thank you all for joining us. But Stacey, give a little background on Viktor Frankl's book, and I want to kind of share the story.
Yes, so that's one of the more powerful books you'll ever read, and it's on my list, probably top 5 that everyone should read before you go out of this earth. And Viktor Frankl, he was caught up in the concentration camps. His family was killed around him, and it kind of goes through his journey through all of what that would mean. So we're talking about, starting from a place of trouble. Imagine starting from that. But what he ended up doing is he started and created a completely new branch of psychology called logotherapy. And the quote I always go back to of his is, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And within that space is where we have our power. And so we can't control the stimulus. We can't control the things that are going on around us. We can't control all those other economies like David talks about. We can't control what the knucklehead that's driving next to us is going to do, or what this person over there is going to do. But what I can control is how I respond to what happens. And that's where our true power lies. And it gets really, the book will open your eyes to how important that little space, to take that moment to choose a better choice maybe than what we're choosing now really is.
I was hoping you were going to give that overview of it, and you did it. You did perfect. Now, in the book, he talks about in the concentration camp about being able to know when somebody was giving up. They were going to die. They're like, that was it. He could almost had a countdown. And I want to go deeper into that story because so Trevor Moawad, in his book, It Takes What It Takes, and in a video, he shares a story of a guy trapped in an ice. True story. You can look it up. I looked it up just to verify because I was like, I want to see if this is real. But trapped in a refrigerated car of a train, and the door locks. He's the only one in there, and it's a refrigerated car. He was going to do something. I forget what he was doing, but and he gets trapped, and he's writing on the wall, getting colder. I can't. Getting colder. And I forget how many hours he was in the car, but people came to rescue, and he was dead in this refrigerated car. The crazy thing is, what they found was the mechanism, the refrigeration mechanism to make it cold wasn't even working. So the coldest it ever gotten there was 50 degrees. So he basically talked himself to death. Like you can talk yourself and believe yourself to death. That is how powerful this thing is. Like it can fool with you that much if you let it. And that's when I heard that story, I was like, whoa. That's why I had to check it out. But then I was like, okay, now I gotta really be careful what I'm surrounding myself with, but also what I'm putting up here. Because once you give up, and then again, Viktor Frankl said, I forget what he called it, but he called it something, and he could tell when somebody had so many hours left to live, and he knew he could see that they were going to die.
Yeah. They get in their mindset that the end was that a positive end was going to happen at Christmas Eve or whatever the date was. They're going to let us all free, and then when it didn't happen, they just couldn't survive beyond that point, and they would just die. And it's exactly that. They believe themselves to death, because that they made themselves believe that without this, there's no way I can survive. Instead of having the mindset of what really survival is all about. The book, there's parts of that book that'll just make your skin crawl. It's so heart wrenching. It's amazing. But yeah, that's on my list for everyone to read.
I agree, and I'm glad you dropped that book. Again, everybody, if you enjoyed this, if you loved following us, again, so next week we are switching up our Tuesday time. So Thursdays for a little while, we are going to keep it when me and Stacey break down our guest. Going to keep it for 9:30 till 10:30 for a little while, see how you all like it. But then next week for our guest, the next two guests, we're going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard live. So please, we're giving everybody later in the afternoon a chance. And our next guest next week is going to be Jose Castaneda. Amazing dude, amazing story. He's part of we'll let him share his journey. I won't even give too much of background. It's just amazing.
Part of the Loyalty Brands family.
He is part of the Loyalty Brands family. That is absolutely correct. And excited to have him on. And I think you guys will really enjoy just his story and his journey. Quite cool. It will be very very fitting for where we're at this time in the season of our world as it sits. So again, don't miss it. Can't wait for next week. Again, Tuesday 2 p.m., Thursday 9:30. Robinhood Capitalists will be live, trying to just get your mind right. Get you
and Tuesday I'll be home, so that's even better.
Yes, and Stacey will be home, so you won't see the great background of the hotel behind him. Maybe you have to take a picture.
This wonderful light that makes me look like a ghost.
Yes, he's not that way. He's actually he lives by the sun. He's actually very. But all right, Stacey. Well, thank you for doing this again. Thank you, John, for making this possible, and thank you everybody for watching and supporting us. We truly
thanks again to David for being our first guest. David Perez, check him out.
Yes, David Perez, check him out, Mr. B.Y.O.E. You want to learn about forgetting all the other economies around you and just how to focus on your own, reach out to Mr. B.Y.O.E. who will help you. He does have a YouTube channel as well, so check him out and subscribe. He has amazing content, amazing videos, and amazing guest. So even one of his most recent shows was amazing with this younger kid. I think he was early 20s, mid 20s, super successful in real estate. So crazy. But so he has a lot of great guests on there. So be sure and check it out. And as always, thank you for being a part of this journey with us. We hope that we can just be the quality people and the start. Again, non-negotiables are a key. Figure out what your non-negotiables are. Be clear on what you want in your life and definitely what you don't want in your life. And when you remove enough negatives, you'll give enough opportunity for the positives to surround you. And so just enjoy the journey, embrace the journey. Remember, it's you against you. We're here to help. Surround yourself with those people and always feed the good wolf. Until next week, y'all, have a great weekend.
See you Tuesday.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, see you Tuesday. Have a great weekend, Coach.
You get one heart. song. Take it seriously. This is